Hey, you're listening to Pure Light, where we explore how to become the highest version of yourself so that you feel worthy of your craziest dreams and confident in your power to make them happen. My name is Ailey. I'm a coach and a Kundalini yoga and meditation teacher. This is episode 38, and it's about where limiting beliefs come from. So the story I want to share with you today is from when I first started working on my book. So this was probably a couple of years ago now, and I had a major block against even starting. And so even though I felt this calling to write a book, I kept really ignoring it, and not out of a lack of desire, but just it felt like there was something blocking me and something inside me. And that's when this story actually resurfaced in my memory, because it's something that I had kind of forgotten about. When I was in high school English, we had a short story assignment. So I was in my last year of high school. I was a straight A student at the time, and we had to write a short story. And I think we were given some guidance in terms of how to structure it and that kind of thing. And I decided to take a creative risk on this assignment. So I think I kind of followed the guidelines that we were given, but I took a bit of liberty because I decided to write something that was a sci-fi piece instead of something that was just pure fiction. Like I wanted it to have that, I guess the sci-fi element to it, because I had been reading a lot of novels of that genre at that time. And what ended up happening with that piece, when I got it back from the teacher, it was the worst grade I had ever gotten. It was a D. And I remember feeling so much shame. Like there was just this heat that flooded my body. And what made it worse was that after class that day, as I was leaving, the teacher pulled me aside and asked me, "Are you ESL, or were you ESL before coming into this class?" And if you're not familiar with ESL, that means English as a second language. So you're not a native English speaker. And I am a native English speaker. I learned Estonian and English. Basically, when I learned to talk, I learned them both at the same time. And so that was also really insulting because it was a big assumption on her part. And she said something like, "Oh, I thought maybe because of your name, you might be ESL." Because my name is quite unusual for a lot of people who speak English. Ailey is not the most common name, and my last name is certainly not common. And I think because of that, a lot of people have problems pronouncing it and spelling it. But so she basically assumed that because I had a weird name, that maybe I was ESL. And what ended up happening as a result of that was that I believed that I was like a really bad writer. And I took that with me for many years because I think initially I had considered doing writing or something like that as a career. But after this happened in my last year of high school, I decided that that was never going to happen because I did not want to face this kind of rejection, because it was really painful to have that experience. And so the thing is though, after I had that experience, I had that really strong negative emotion. And then I also had my mind reacting and saying, wow, I'm a really bad writer and I shouldn't do this with my life. And I ended up in engineering, I ended up in the corporate world. And then after that, I ended up in yoga and coaching. And it was only when I started trying to write a book that this story kind of resurfaced in my memory. And I realized the connection that I made between that experience and what I believed I was capable of. Because that experience made me believe that I was not made out to be a writer. Limiting beliefs come from the assumptions that we make about our experience of life. But the meaning that you make from an experience is totally up to you, because it's based entirely on the perspective that you take. And the perspective that you take is something that you can choose, because it can be something that's about you or about the world, and it can be empowering or disempowering. So whenever you catch yourself making an assumption about something that's just happened, whether it's about you or whether it's about the world, ask yourself, is this really true? Because it often isn't. And the more that you catch yourself making those assumptions and ask yourself that question, the more you start to see things as they are. Like in this story here, I could have chosen to believe that my teacher didn't know what she was talking about, or that she did not appreciate science fiction, or something like that. Like, I didn't have to make it about my capabilities and what I thought was possible for me. But I did, and that's why I totally abandoned my desire to write for 20 years. And the biggest irony out of this is that my sister has been telling me most of my life that I should be a writer. And on that note, I've been sharing an idea from my book on Instagram every day. If you want to follow along, you can find me there at Aili Kutan, which is spelled AILIKUUTAN. Or you can see the ideas on the hashtag Be the You That You Love, which is the working title of the book. There are a couple of episodes of this podcast where I talked about how the mind reacts. I'll include links to those in the show notes so that you can find them easily. Go to purelightpodcast.com and look for episode 38 to get them. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, may you be guided by your light.